Hi everyone, welcome back to Feeding Raven Doodles, a pet parent's guide to nutrition. Today's topic is how to pick a pet food. So I've broken this video up into two parts just because it is such an important topic and it's a long process, so I didn't want to rush through anything or skip over anything. So today I'll be talking to you about how to assess a specific pet food or pet food company. So the first thing most pet owners do when they're picking a pet food is look at the bag, right? So a pet food label is going to be regulated by American Association of Food Control Officials, also known as AFCO, and the FDA, so the Food and Drug Administration. These two organizations are going to set guidelines and laws on what can be on that pet food bag. So they regulate the ingredients list, the pictures you can use, the terminology you can use. So all the things that go on a pet food label is basically a legal document. And it truly tells pet owners nothing about the quality of that pet food, even if they use terminology like premium or high quality. That really doesn't tell you anything because those terms have no legal definition. So in my upcoming videos, I will actually talk about topics like how to read a pet food label and marketing. But today we're just talking about assessing that actual pet food based on different topics. So the World Small Animal Veterinary Association, also known as WSAVA, gives excellent guidelines on picking pet foods. They have a series of questions that you should be able to pose to manufacturers that will give you an outline of how reliable that company is and how much quality control goes into their food and overall what the quality of that pet food is. So the first thing that you have to do, unfortunately, is call the manufacturer. So it is a time-consuming process, and you do have to have this list of questions out in order to really get a good idea of what that pet food company is all about. Because if you just kind of go in not knowing, you could be hit with a marketing tactic. You could be hit with a spiel, a filibuster of sorts from a customer service representative that is all fluff and no substance. So you're going to want to have these 8 questions out and ready to go when you call the pet food manufacturer. So click the link in the description below for the WSAVA guidelines, but they're also going to pop up here. Does the pet food company employ a full-time qualified nutritionist? What is this nutritionist's name and qualifications? So first we need to define what a qualified nutritionist is. What are their credentials? So a qualified nutritionist is either going to be a PhD in animal nutrition or a board-certified veterinary nutritionist. A PhD in animal nutrition has gotten a bachelor's degree and then has gone on to do postgraduate work under a mentor in the field of animal nutrition, doing research, publishing papers, and studying under that mentor. A board-certified veterinary nutritionist has gotten a bachelor's degree, a doctor of veterinary medicine degree, and then has gone on to do a residency in veterinary nutrition and has taken and passed a board certifying exam. So this is going to include diplomates of the American College of Veterinary Nutrition or diplomates of the European College of Veterinary and Comparative Nutrition. So a good pet food company will employ full-time either a PhD in animal nutrition or a board-certified veterinary nutritionist, and they will be happy to let you know that they employ this person and give you their name and credentials. A warning sign, if you ask this question, a pet food company might consult with a board-certified nutritionist or a PhD in nutrition, but they don't employ them or they only work for them part-time. And a red flag when you ask this question would be if the pet food company either refuses to answer you, skirts around the question, or will say, yeah, we employ a team of experts or we have an animal nutritionist, but they refuse to give you their name or credentials. That would be a big red flag, and it would tell you that you should probably avoid this pet food company. Who formulates the company's food, and what are his or her credentials? So just like with the previous question, a good pet food company that employs a PhD in animal nutrition or a board-certified veterinary nutritionist will have that person formulating all their diets. If you ask this question and you hear something like, oh, our panel of experts or qualified scientists formulate this food, that might be a warning sign. A red flag is when the company will not disclose this information, or they will refuse to give you the credentials of the people that formulate their food.
Are the company's diets tested using AFCO feeding trials or by formulation to meet AFCO nutrient profiles? If the latter, do they meet the AFCO nutrient profiles by formulation or by analysis of the finished product?
So in order to understand the answers to this question, we first have to back up and understand a little more about the AFCO nutrient profiles. So dogs and cats require more than 40 nutrients to be in their diets so that they can live and be healthy. So AFCO has a profile for dogs and for cats that lists out all the nutrients and the percentage of each nutrient that is necessary to be in their diet. So there are two different types of requirements that AFCO wants to see on a pet food label, and that's either going to be meeting by formulation or meeting by feeding trials. So you can call the pet food company to figure this information out, or you can read the pet food bag. Meeting by formulation means that based on the recipe or the formula for the pet food, it's going to meet these minimum percentages given by AFCO. This is a pretty good baseline to ensure that the diet actually has all the nutrients it needs. Meeting by feeding trials means that a group of dogs or a group of cats was given the pet food for a certain amount of days, and it tests the digestibility and the availability of the diet for the animals. It's going to ensure that the animals don't get sick on the food. It's going to make sure that they can thrive on that food, and it's going to make sure that there are no toxic or harmful ingredients in the food that we might not see on formulation. So meeting AFCO nutrient profiles in the final product is going to be ideal, because these ingredients that are in your formulation can change with cooking and processing. So a good pet food company is going to do all three of these things. It's going to meet AFCO nutrient profiles on formulation and on the final product, and it's going to do feeding trials for their pet food. All three of these things are extremely important in making sure that the diet has the right number of nutrients and that it is good for the animal long term. If you ask this question and the pet food company replies with they only meet based on formulation, that might be a warning sign. A red flag would be if the company calls feeding trials palatability tests, which basically just means that the dog and cat will eat it willingly because it tastes good. So that's not a real feeding trial. So if a pet food company says, yeah, we do feeding trials, and they really mean palatability tests, that's a red flag. Another red flag is if the manufacturer does not believe in feeding trials, or if they believe that research is cruel, or that there's something wrong with research. That's another red flag. And then another red flag would be if a feeding trial is used to circumvent the nutrient profiles based on formulation. So this is a big problem, and a pet food company might say, yes, we do feeding trials based on AFCO guidelines, but their nutrient profile does not match AFCO's at all.
Where are the company's foods produced and manufactured?
So for this question, a good pet food company is going to have US-based facilities that are owned by the manufacturer and are supervised regularly by that manufacturer. A warning sign you might see when you ask this question would be if the facilities are overseas, or if the manufacturer doesn't supervise these facilities very regularly, or if the facilities are shared with another pet food company. A red flag would be if the manufacturer is unwilling to disclose this information, or if they don't regulate the facilities at all.
What specific quality control measures does the company use to assure the consistency and quality of their ingredients and end products?
A pet food company that has good quality control is going to provide you with detailed information because they have nothing to hide. A good pet food company is going to have specific criteria for their partners, so where they get their pet food. They're going to have specific criteria for how they analyze their ingredients and their pet food. They're going to do samples of their ingredients, daily checks of the facilities, physical inspections, and they're going to test the ingredients when they come in, and they're going to test the final product before it goes out on the shelves. A warning sign when you ask this question might be if the pet food company claims that they have extensive quality control, but they can't provide you with any details. And then a red flag would be if the pet food company just refuses to disclose what their quality control is like, or if in the past they've had demonstrably poor quality control.
Will the company provide a complete nutrient analysis for this specific pet food?
While a nutrient analysis might be a little too detailed and in-depth for your average pet owner to understand, it's extremely important that a pet food company be able to give you this information. So a good pet food company is going to be able to give you a complete nutrient analysis for every single nutrient that is in their pet food, based on a grams per kilocalorie amount. So, for example, if you ask them about calcium, they should be able to give you how many grams of calcium there are in 1,000 calories of their pet food. This is not a minimum or maximum, and it's not a percentage. It's also going to include a bunch of other ingredients that aren't listed on the guaranteed analysis and aren't listed on the bag. A warning sign that you might find when you ask this question is that the company might say, oh, we can only give you that on an as-fed basis. So we can only give you a percentage of that. That's a pretty big warning sign. A red flag is if they're unable to give you the information or they're unwilling to disclose that information. Or they simply refer you back to the bag and they say, oh, here's the guaranteed analysis, that's all we have.
What is the caloric content of a gram, can, or cup of this specific pet food?
So this one seems simple, but it's actually pretty important. So while kilocalories per cup or kilocalories per can are required to be on the pet food label legally, a good pet food company will also be able to give you how many calories are in a gram of their pet food. Warning sign might be if the pet food company can only give you this information based on a cup or a can of their food. And a red flag would be if they can't give you the information at all, or if they're just unwilling to disclose it to you. And if they're really unable to give you the information, this is a pretty big red flag because it's likely that they're either fudging the numbers on their label or they're breaking the law, since it's a legally required piece of information to be on the bag.
What kind of product research has been conducted? Are the results published in peer-reviewed journals?
So for some diets, research is actually going to be legally required by the FDA because they're making a drug claim. A drug claim is a statement made by the pet food company that says this food can be used to treat or prevent a specific disease. So they need research to back this up, showing that the food can be used for this purpose. But other over-the-counter pet foods don't need research to back them up. However, it's really nice to see that a company is based in science, because this is important to figure out how committed they are to optimal pet health and nutrition. It's also cool to see the different side projects and other research the company is doing that might be a little outside the field of nutrition, but is still focused on pets' general well-being. A warning flag when you ask this question might be if a company claims that they do research, but none of it is published, they can't give you the results, and none of it is available for you to access anywhere. And then a red flag would be if the company doesn't do research, refuses to answer your question, or if they openly oppose research. So now you're armed with all the information you need to go out, call a manufacturer, and see if they meet the WSAVA guidelines. These questions were formulated so that you can assess the transparency, reliability, honesty, and integrity of a pet food company, as well as the safety and efficacy of their foods. These are questions that all reliable pet food companies should be able and willing to answer for you. If the pet food company is unreliable or dishonest, they'll refuse to answer your questions or they'll fall into the red flag category we talked about. Companies that do meet these guidelines have the money and staff necessary to do all these things. It's very expensive and time-consuming to formulate your foods properly, to employ specialists, and to have extensive quality control. Believe it or not, most companies actually don't meet the WSAVA nutritional guidelines. So definitely call your pet food company and ask them these questions to figure out if they do. Thanks so much for watching this how-to video on picking a pet food. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share with your friends. Check out the video's description below for links to all the resources that I used to make the video, as well as some additional reading material. Next time, be on the lookout for part 2, How to Pick a Pet Food, Assessing the Pet.